Hello and welcome to Tuesday's training. Here we are again, as usual, on Tuesday inside the Kandoo Equine training. Now, there's a couple of things I want to point out here while we're on this home page. First of all, the big blue banner, which is quite obvious. If you haven't yet picked up your free training series, please do so. The other thing I want to show you is the little help button down here, the little message button. I am here and I will be happy to talk to you. If I'm not here, you can send your message as a email and I will get back to you via email. If you have any questions about the training, just press that button and I'm at the end of that connection. And also if you're inside the training, which is where we'll go now, there's one of those on every page of the training. So you are not alone. Come along. We'll go to my library, which is where you go when you first get in to find the horse training course. Now, today we're going to be talking about the round pen. So let's have a look at that. We'll view the horse training course. Now, I used to use the round pen a lot. I used to put pretty much every horse in the round pen because it is a really good place to teach a horse about negative reinforcement. Properly timed, well executed negative reinforcement. That means the horse does something, as in moves forward, and you release the pressure, and that's the reward for the horse. And so the horse learns to look for answers in movement, which is what we discussed yesterday. What I found over time was that it is very hard not to chase the horse in the round pen. So when I was teaching people the round pen, it was very hard for people, when they were starting out with their training, so teaching it first, it was very hard for them not to chase the horse because they didn't have a very good idea about the horse's emotional level or about the engagement zone. So I actually stopped teaching it first and I moved it to much further ahead in the training so that people had a really good grasp of their horse's emotional level. So they'd done these lessons first, the engagement zone and the give to the bit work, which are all about building that bubble of communication. I wanted them to do that before they got the horse in the round pen. And that's why you see this training here. You know, you work through from the welcome video, you can work through this, you can progress through to the engagement zone, and then third you do give to the bit, then you move to shoulder control. So they all progress one after the other. And I don't do any liberty round pen work. I do use the round pen, I'll talk about that in a minute, but I don't do any liberty round pen work until here, even after the habituation to novel objects, because I think it is that advanced. And the reason I think it is that advanced is because it's so easy to chase the horse and because it's so difficult not to chase the horse. And it's so difficult to keep the horse engaged and enjoying the lesson and not fearing the round pen. The round pen needs to be a classroom, but it can be a torture chamber really easily. So this is why with this module, I start with the short lesson number one is what not to do. Now, usually I don't start with that. It's not a great place to start always, but in this case, it's the perfect place to start. So if you're interested in doing round pen liberty work, then do come here, do watch this. This first one is a 1 hour full length lesson and it walks you all through all the things that you can teach in the round pen. And for me, that's inside turns, outside turns, and come to me. Then we have a quick overview of that, and then I'm going to run through with you what you shouldn't do. And that's a really, really important video. This one here really is. It's very important to know what you shouldn't do. And we discuss here equipment and things as well in there. Let's just go back, and then I'll show you the progress that you'll make here. So first of all, I teach outside turns. Now that means to turn away from me in the round pen, and that'd just be a short lesson. Then we move on to inside turns and come to me, parts 1 and 2. And I've done come to me with a young horse for you because I think it's really important that we understand that even with the horse at liberty, or maybe even especially with the horse at liberty in the round pen, we must be very careful that we don't make the horse tired, because as soon as the horse is tired, it stopped learning. And these young horses have very, very limited energy. So it's really important that we engage these youngsters with the lesson so that we can get it done quickly. And, you know, if your horse is cantering in the round pen, you've probably got too high an emotional level, so you want to bring it down a bit. So that's the young horses. That's great. What I also find is that some horses have been desensitized to the round pen. Like some horses have been broken in using a round pen, and what's happened is that they've been sort of run into exhaustion in the round pen, and so they're pretty oblivious. They don't really care much about the pressure being put on them. And so I discussed that in the overconfident horse. There's the horse that also might go for you in the round pen. There are a lot of horses that have had a bad experience of the round pen actually get very defensive in that environment, and so that's something you need to be aware of before you put your horse in there and take all the tack off and ask it to move around. I've only had that happen to me once before, but it was quite an intimidating experience, I can tell you that. And the final one is fast track to inside turn. So that really actually looks at something I call advanced inside turn. So once the horse has got turn and face you, you can then teach the horse to do small circles around you where it does just turn and face and then change direction, which is quite fun. That's just a bit of fun. So I discussed yesterday other things you can do with the round pen. And I just mentioned there, you know, I don't use the round pen until much later on in the training. I don't use the round pen at liberty until much later on. I use it a lot before that, but I don't use it until I have a bridle on the horse. So first saddling, you know, I definitely want to do that in the round pen, but I don't do it at liberty any longer. And the reason I don't do it at liberty is because there's a big risk that the horse could run and bark and kick the round pen when it did so. So now I make sure that I don't do it at liberty, and I have the horse on a line when I'm doing that. You can see here this horse that's learning the saddle habituation lesson is in fact on a lunge line, and that's a really important point to remember, to keep the horse on a line when you're doing that first saddling, when you're habituating the horse to various things. So it is much safer than leaving the horse to its own devices, because that can you can injure the horse very easily letting it bucket out, as they say, in the round pen. Another one, especially if I've had a horse that's just been learning the first saddling, I do the first mounting as well in the round pen straight after the first saddling lesson. And so that's another really useful use for the round pen, is I actually climb up. I'm terribly short in the legs, and I actually use the round pen to climb up on the side of it to be higher than the horse. So it's very good for habituating the horse to having me higher than him. And also then when I do finally get on, I can just step over and I don't have to wrench the saddle over its side. And even me at the top of my mounting block, I still need to step in the stirrup and step on. So to begin with, I don't do any of that. I just use the round pen fence to get on. So it is very useful for that for young horses, especially I find that being able to be above them, because these days, you know, we don't sort of do a lot of that, what they used to call snubbing out, where you ride one horse and lead the unbroken horse. We don't do much of that anymore, but this will give the horse the same feeling of having you quite high above the horse. So first saddling, very useful. Long reining is another time that the round pen is terribly useful when you're teaching this lesson. The reason being that it takes away all those problems that the horse has with direction. So you can actually have very little directional control before you start long reining, because the horse will have very few choices about where it can go. So the round pen will help you, the walls of the round pen will help you get that directional control that you need when you're long reining. So it's a great place to teach long reining, and much easier than teaching long reining in a big open space or even an arena. Short reining, of course, is pretty much exactly the same thing. So just on shorter rein. So again, if you've got a round pen, great. And if you do happen to lose the horse, then, well, it hasn't got far to go. And the other one is the habituation to novel objects. That's the other one that I'd do before I would do round pen at liberty. And again, that's mostly a useful environment because it limits the horse's possibilities of being able to travel too far. And so therefore it helps us control the horse's emotional level, because as you can see that Brumby there with all the recycling tied to his saddle, we certainly wouldn't want that horse going too far away or being able to get really scared, because once it picks up a lot of speed, then, you know, it's gone, and the whole lesson is a disaster because the poor horse ends up terrified, which is the last thing we want. So that's it for me for today. I do think the round pen is a wonderful place when it's used properly, and do think it is a wonderful classroom, even if you're teaching simple inside and outside turns and come to me at liberty. But I do think that you have to go into it with the idea of very specific things to teach and minimize the time the horse spends going around the outside of the pen. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow with Hump Day. Look forward to that. Bye.